Hello everybody and welcome to Pretty Good Gamer Podcast episode number 89. Hello a croeso I podcast Rhif 89. My name's Mr. Gareth Evans. Joining me today is Mr. Henry Epically Pwned Cooper.
Epically pwned. I mean, that story was quite fun to talk about anyway, because it's massively ironic, a cyber attack on the cyberpunk people. But epically pwned, not and spelt correctly, you know, just P-W-N-E-D. Like, it's just the best thing ever. Although it raises certain question marks about the legitimacy of it, and there's plenty of conspiracy theories banging around, which are great fun. But I've not been doing much pwning. I've not been doing any gaming. I've just been sitting about, working a bit now that I'm back. I'm back, hopefully, full steam ahead for at least for 5 minutes, do some actual videos for
we are back. This is our first podcast in a while. And one thing to say on that cyberpunk hacker, it's like these hackers are getting younger and younger, aren't they? This is some 11-year-old in his basement. It's got to be.
I was thinking that. So, no adult, right, uses language like pwned. But then I think about it, do kids today say that? Because it feels like that's like kids from before who are now are adults, so maybe the hacker is actually a 30-year-old or something who
didn't grow up,
who just still behaves like a kid and thinks pwning noobs on fucking Call of Duty Modern Warfare lobbies or something.
Anyway, I don't think we're going to talk about Cyberpunk at length today. We've got other things on the agenda, but we obviously talk enough about Cyberpunk on this channel anyway, so we might inadvertently jump into some sort of
it's difficult
conversation.
To There's just always something going on. One of the comments from this week, I always say, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Then someone commented, if you don't want to talk about it, then stop. And I'm like, but it's an addiction. You can't not. There's always something happening, and it's always something stupid or juicy or whatever, and I don't want, it's painful. Yeah. But I can't stop myself.
That was a Rob Vesta. I got that one. That's one of the comments this week. I'll read down now.
Oh, there you go.
Henry Cooper, if you're tired of talking about Cyberpunk, then stop. It's like an addiction. You just like.
He's right.
Just stop talking about it. But,
I should just
unfortunately,
but I can't.
Covering the news, the gaming news, it's difficult to do that, right? You just can't.
Then if I don't cover it, then you'll get spam comments like, why haven't you mentioned this? Why haven't you mentioned this?
Exactly. There's no winning.
You can't win.
You can't win. But we do have a bunch of things on today's agenda. We've got loads of comments. You have questions from the Discord, let's say, because we haven't done a podcast for a few weeks now, so we've got a backlog of questions. So that's going to be a pretty bigger segment than usual. We've also got Triggered Fanboy later on. Some of the other YouTube comments, bad dad joke of the week, the end segment. Before that, we have a few, a smattering, a handful, a few little kind of a juggle's worth of stories to wet your lips with today. We're going to start with The Last of Us TV show casting, because The Last of Us is getting a TV show, and the two main actors who will be playing the main parts have been revealed. Now, Henry, fill us in.
Well, so just a very brief background. It's The Last of Us. Everyone knows what that is, I would assume. There's a TV show being made of it by HBO, who are best known for doing big scale stuff like Game of Thrones, but they also did Chernobyl, which is really, really good. Not enough people have seen it. Everyone should watch Chernobyl. It's brilliant. And the guy who did Chernobyl, or Chernobyl, I'm just going to throw that out there. No one knows whether it's Chernobyl or Chernobyl. Everyone flip-flops about it, so there you go. There's both. The creator of that show is heading up this one with Neil Druckmann, the creator of The Last of Us, heavily involved as well. So that, I mean, depending on your opinion on him,
that
and more specifically
or
Last of Us 2, you know, that's I'll leave you to decide that. But anyway, so they've officially announced who's playing Ellie and Joel, and there's been fan casts for months and months and months, but it's finally, this is official, shared by, who was it, The Hollywood Reporter, as an exclusive. That was I think like this morning, so this will probably get to you like 5 minutes later because upload schedules and stuff. So Joel is being played by Pedro Pascal, who you may recognize from Game of Thrones, most recently The Mandalorian. He's also in Narcos and Kingsman 2, as well as a bunch of other things. He's kind of an internet darling at the moment. He's having a bit of a blossoming, even though he's kind of older than that often. He's about 45, and often he seems to be having kind of a late bloom, but I like it. I think he's great. He's a solid choice.
Well, yeah, it's a nice opportunity for him to show his face in a TV show, right?
Exactly, instead of just doing the voice and having a stunt guy potter about in a helmet or whatever. But yeah, I think he's a really, really great choice. I've not seen him be like super, super dark, so that should be interesting, because his off-screen personality is quite like fun and lighthearted, so then you've got a bit of the warmth that Joel has, because Joel isn't just a mindless monster. He does have a lot of soul to him. But then some of the characters he plays are often a bit more grim and serious, and yeah. But I want to see him just fucking ruin people. Yeah. You know, I want to see him really mess some people up like Joel should. And then Ellie, who is arguably harder to cast than Joel, I would say, because Joel needs to be a gruff bloke, and then you can kind of work with. There's a lot of gruff blokes out there, but Ellie, you've got to be like young and innocent, but sort of fiery and explosive and sort of corrupt, but still vulnerable. Like it's weird. So that is by Bella Ramsey, who you may have probably not heard of because I hadn't, but she's Lyanna Mormont in Game of Thrones, who is the little girl, the head of the Mormont house, who's just a total badass, and everyone just listens to this like 11-year-old girl, even though there's all these lords and knights around. She's the one who gets shit done. So she's 17 in the real world. So I think that's perfectly like fine to play Ellie, because I think Ellie's meant to be 14, 15, something like that.
Yeah, Lyanna Mormont is a badass character in Game of Thrones, and I think that's a good casting. I think there's 2 good castings there, and it's got me kind of excited for the show. How about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really into it. Lyanna Mormont, for what was largely a pretty underwhelming series, to say the least, in Series 8 of Game of Thrones, she had like the coolest moment because she took out a giant, which was pretty sweet. And you like you think she's out of it, but then she comes back in. That's Ellie, right? That's pretty spot on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, obviously, because this happens every single fucking time, complaining like, "Oh, we wanted so and so, we wanted so and so." Literally, I think I first saw it because I think the Game Awards Twitter page shared it, and then I went and found the Hollywood Reporter article and read that. But on that tweet, there was like literally a picture from the film Logan with Hugh Jackman and I can't remember her name, but the girl who plays the girl in that, saying, "We wanted this," and I'm like, You've got that. That's not a press photo. It's not 2 photos put together. That's literally from the film called Logan, about a gruff old man escorting a girl across the country. That film exists. You have it already, and we want it. Speak for your fucking self. Like, I've got that. I don't need any more. Another popular one was Nikolai Coster-Waldau, who's also in Game of Thrones. He plays Jaime Lannister. But yeah, he would have been cool. But I'm like 100% fine with Pedro Pascal doing it. Like, I've no reservations for that at all. I think he'll nail it.
Yeah, as good as Nikolai Coster-Waldau, if I got that right, as good as he is, I think that Pedro Pascal is a better choice. I think there's something about his image that fits better with Joel, myself.
I think he's so popular at the moment. Like, as I said, he's kind of the internet's darling. Everyone likes him, so he's a good get right now because they capitalize on how popular he is. But one thing there's a bit of a question mark is how is he going to have the time? Like, he's a busy guy. He's doing Mandalorian, and now they're trying to expand Mandalorian out to do different splinter series that are then all going to come together. So how is he going to fit it into his busy schedule? But I mean, I guess Mandalorian, most of it is a stunt guy in a mask, and he can just record in an audio.
It's true, he doesn't do the audio. Yeah,
doesn't have to do much.
But doesn't have to be there for the recording there. That's for sure.
Exactly, he can just show up in between beating up clickers or whatever. So one thing I thought was very funny was literally yesterday. So today is Thursday, and it was Wednesday at the time of recording, obviously. It circulated online that the actor, and forgive me for mispronouncing his name, so we'll struggle with it, Mahershala Ali, who is a black actor, it was rumored that he was going to be cast as Joel. So I just think it's funny that immediately the next day, the Hollywood Reporter come out and was like, yeah, no, that's not it. And they even acknowledged it in their article about it, and they say one person not involved with the show is former True Detective star Mahershala Ali, whom geek websites on Wednesday had pegged as having an offer. Ali did circle the role, say sources, but a deal ever came to. I imagine that means a deal never came to fruition. So he was in talks to maybe play Joel, and then ultimately it never happened. But I just think it's so funny. This guy who would be a very, very controversial choice. He's a black guy for starters, so playing a white role, that always gets a lot of heat. But no, it's total bollocks. It's just not the case at all. It's Pedro Pascal, who, I think Pedro Pascal is an excellent choice, and I'm excited for it. There's no more information about it. We don't really know when it's coming out, who else is going to be in it, and it's probably, I mean, I would imagine they're going to start shooting it like this year with a mind for it to come out next year.
Yeah.
But again, all of that's completely up in the air, and the world is still more than a little bit buggered at the moment. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and there's a few more roles to fill that we haven't been made aware of yet. But the good news is there's plenty of remaining cast members of the original Game of Thrones to fill in those spaces, because apparently they like hiring Game of Thrones members. So I mean, there you go.
I guess keeping it in the same ecosystem means it's easier for like contracts and stuff, because they kind of know each other. I don't know. And I suppose maybe they can do a deal with them. But yeah, I mean, there's literally everyone under the sun was in Game of Thrones at some point or another. So just let's take that one and we'll have that one.
That's true. Just as long as it's not Ed Sheeran, we'll all be good.
You never know. Lena Headey's going to be cast as Tess.
Yeah.
Although actually that would actually be a pretty solid casting. She'd be a really good Tess.
Yeah. Maybe. All right, let's move on. This is like the most maybe controversial news topic, right? Google Stadia is struggling, and we've heard recently that Google have cancelled a couple of their studios who were working on games, exclusive first-party games for Google Stadia. And now there's some more bad news, right? Some funny / bad news.
I mean, I wish I could say that we didn't see this coming. That yes, Stadia, it's just an exciting proposition. You can play all of these games. You don't need a fancy machine. You can stream it or whatever. But it's never going to go that way. Google tries all these cool things and then pulls the plug 5 minutes later, and it seems like that may happen sooner rather than later. So anyway, there's a game called, and I always pronounce this one wrong, it's either Terraria, which I think it would be, or Terraria. I'd say Terraria, so I'm going to continue to say Terraria. It's kind of old, came out in 2011, and it's like a 2D sandbox action-adventure kind of thing. Relatively like indie.
Like a 2D Minecraft.
Yeah, kind of. And it was supposed to be coming out on Stadia, I believe, later this year. Deals done, because it's already out, so all it is just putting it onto their system, and it should be relatively simple. Apparently not, because the developer has outright cancelled it completely out of the blue after his Google account got blocked and he couldn't do anything anymore. And he went on to a bit of a Twitter rant about it. This guy's called Andrew Spinks, I think, from RE Logic, and it's so funny that he's just laying it out. He's firing from the hip. Google have fucked up this big time, and they've not communicated with him, and they've kind of cancelled his YouTube channel as well for no apparent reason. And he's gone on a Twitter run, and this is the kind of thing that we relish. These game developer Twitter rants. So fill us in, Henry. What's the guy saying? So, at Google, my account has been deactivated for over 3 weeks. I still have no idea why, and after using every resource I have to get this resolved, you have done nothing but give me the runaround. And then it's a subsequent tweet, so there's about 4 tweets deep. My phone has lost access to thousands of dollars of apps on Google Play. I had just bought Lord of the Rings 4K and can't finish it. Yeah, not being able to finish Lord of the Rings in 4K. That's the real tragedy of this. He continues, my @Google Drive is completely gone. I can't access my YouTube channel. The worst of all is losing access to my Gmail address of over 15 years. I have absolutely not done anything to violate your terms of service, so I can take this as no other way than you deciding to burn this bridge. Consider it burned. #Terraria for Google Stadia is cancelled. My company will no longer support any of your platforms moving forward. I will not be involved with a corporation that values their customers and partners so little. Doing business with you is a liability.
Yeah, absolutely. And those words kind of ring true. That last sentence specifically. Having been kind of in the same situation as him last year, where having violated certain terms and conditions on YouTube, we were notified that, I was notified that my main guitar channel has been cancelled or deleted, as well as like any accompanying channels, which was this channel too. And they weren't telling exactly what we'd done and why they were being deleted. So it's just that for me, this is just symptomatic of the way that Google operates, which is simply don't know what they're doing from department to department. They don't, it's such a bad organization to work for and work with that a guy like this who is working with them on one level, who's publishing a game on Google Stadia, having all of his Google services cancelled and paused or deleted or whatever without any notification of what the hell he's done wrong, it's an absolute crime, is what it is. It's an absolute crime.
It's such a joke. Like Google, they're too big. They've got too many things going on, and their staff just don't seem to communicate, even within the same department. Like the YouTube one, it's meme worthy. You message one person on YouTube or at them on Twitter or whatever. Someone will reply, and then a totally different person will come in, and then there's like 4 or 5 different people you're trying to talk to. It's like, can't you just work together for fuck's sake? I don't know how it's that difficult. I don't understand why you have such a problem. And then the fact that they've just let this guy's entire business relationship fall apart on every level, because it's the YouTube thing, Google Drive thing, and just being able to put the game out and make it work. But the thing is, he says he spoke to, I think it was IGN, added a little more context about stuff, and he basically said this has been going on for ages. Like, it's not just a sudden thing, and as is often the case, the only way to get any attention or make it known is to do it in public and get people behind you and be like, yeah, this fucking sucks. What the hell are you doing? Mm-hmm. But he did clarify to IGN that the game will still exist on the Google Play Store on like Android devices in the meantime, because they don't want to like punish people who have bought it, but just because Google's fucking around. So the quote from them there is, punishing existing customers who paid for our game on these platforms is not what we're about. To be clear, there should be no impact whatsoever on Terraria on Google platforms, both existing / purchase games as well as ongoing store availability. So basically everything going forward from ReLogic or Relogic or however you say it is probably not going to be available on Google stuff. But currently, if you own Terraria, it's fine, because they're not going to punish you because Google fucked them over, which is nice, because you could say, like, they could just pull the whole plug and be like, well, we're not letting you have our game on your platform because you'll make a bit of money from that. We're not doing that. Fuck you. But I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know if he'll ever get reinstated by Google.
He likely will. He likely will. I think he's right in that you do have to make a lot of noise in order to get someone high enough up in the organization's attention so that they've got the power to be able to see how much of a travesty it is and fix that shit. Because that's essentially what happened with us, and I've seen it happen many times before. And it's all these like lower down employees who are just following rules. Like, oh, this has happened. It's in my procedure now. I have to terminate your account, or I have to do this. That's what I have to do. And they're just following letters. They're following an instruction manual. This is what I have to do now. This is part of my job. Instead of being empowered to make decisions or critically analyze the situation and make a decision for themselves, because there's just so many of them. All bunch of drones just going about their daily business, like plodding, and like it might even be an algorithm. We don't know who's making these decisions. It might just be a computer algorithm that Google came up with, because they use algorithms for everything else. So who knows? But hopefully he will get the situation resolved and get his Google accounts back. But yeah, they've burnt a bridge there. I just like the way that he's passionately appealing out on Twitter, and he's thrown his heart out there, and he's in the throes of like frustration when he's writing these tweets. It's a thing to behold, because Google, it just keeps getting worse and worse for them. It's so funny. It's
rare to see, well, anyone in the games industry really be so candid, because the games industry is propped up on secrecy and everything behind closed doors. But he's just like, nah, Google, you're fucked up, and the world's gonna know the truth.
Your shit out, yeah. So there you have it. That's the Google Terraria situation standoff. We'll see how that develops. And then the very last thing that we've got to talk about today, we're having a lot of technical difficulties, by the way. So apologies if you've seen any like jump cuts or anything like that, but apparently technology is not forgiving the fact that we've been away for a few weeks, and it's all going against us. I'm on my backup camera. Henry's had to restart his audio a couple of times. It's all going wrong. But anyway, let's persevere. The last topic of conversation is BlizzCon, which is happening next weekend. Now, hopefully, fingers crossed that we get another meme out of this. Get your mobile phones at the ready because you're going to need them apparently. Do you know guys not have phones? So this is happening online this year as it was last year. And thankfully, it's not a ticketed event like last year, which the fact that they're not charging access for their main marketing event is a bit insane, really. The fact that they did that last year was just preposterous, ridiculous. By the way, look at all our new products, but you've got to pay to come and have a look at what we did. That's ridiculous. So they've dropped that, thankfully, so you can watch the streams for free, which is good news for fans. And the schedule's been posted online, and it happens on the 19th, 20th, and 21st of February, beginning with the opening ceremony, which, according to PC Gamer, I'll read this bit out. The opening ceremonies begin at 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern. I believe that's 11 p.m. UK time. And the schedules run for an hour across 6 separate channels. After that, the situation gets more granular. Each channel will peel off to focus on specific games. Along with the main Blizzard channel, there will be streams dedicated to World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, Diablo, Overwatch, and strategy, in quotation marks, which will cover StarCraft, Warcraft 3, Heroes of the Storm, and other catch-all content. So highlights of the schedule, as noted by PC Gamer, are the behind the scenes at Overwatch 2 stream. So hopefully we'll get some behind the scenes look at Overwatch 2 and maybe some indication of when it's going to come out. And also the stream of Diablo What's Next, and hopefully it's not more promotion for Diablo Immortal. Although the irony with Diablo Immortal, having spawned that meme of do you guys not have phones, is that some of the early impressions on the mobile Diablo game that everyone was so upset about have been that it's actually pretty damn good. So the impressions that I've seen, at least. If only they hadn't have announced it in the way that they did.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, in concept, a Diablo type game you can take mobilely, whatever, on the go, as well as because Diablo 4 is still a thing. That's gonna be a proper one. On its own, that sounds like a reasonable concept, but it's the way you don't insult your audience. Be like, don't you guys have phones or whatever?
Yeah, that was such a faux pas, let's say, insulting your audience. But yeah, Diablo 4, hopefully we should get to hear more about that, because I'm a big fan of Diablo 3, since I played it on the Switch last year before, which you still got. Have you played that?
Yeah, I play it every now and then with my mates, but normally it's like a very spontaneous thing. It's like, oh, we're done playing Mario Kart for a bit, let's play Diablo, and then we'll just grind it out on some random area for ages and murder everything. There's never any sort of plan or story following. It's just, let's just kill some shit together.
So news of Diablo 4 would be great, and Overwatch 2, which is coming, it would be great too. But
it's unclear what exactly Overwatch 2 really is, though, isn't it? Because it's haven't they said that it's gonna be like build on the first one as more like kind of an expansion, have some more like story-based stuff or something? I can't really remember, but
there is a single-player campaign in this where in the previous game there wasn't. So you've got to believe that's some sort of like what do you call it, like training, or just an introduction into the mechanics, just to convert people into online multiplayer players. But yeah, it's one of those ones where they say that a lot of the expansions, a lot of the content is coming to the base Overwatch as well, I believe. I think.
Yeah, I think that was it.
And so it's kind of blurring the lines between what is maybe an expansion versus a full-on sequel to the original game.
And the question is, do you need Overwatch 2? Like, why should I buy that if I can just get Overwatch 1, which is reasonably priced these days? It's been out for a good few years, so it could be really interesting. But
yeah, I mean, it's interesting because of the fact that if you're playing the base Overwatch, you can play multiplayer with Overwatch 2 players, which is a new thing. Which I actually got to commend them for even trying that, because it allows you to keep the engagement of your original player base without segregating off and dividing the two player bases, which is a new thing to the industry. I don't think I've seen that before. And
normally when a new version comes out, they just burn the old one. But from a business perspective, because this is Blizzard, aka Activision, really, like they called Activision Blizzard, but Activision is the boss. It means that you can keep the player base paying. You can keep selling to this market of microtransactions buyers and loot box buyers and stuff. Like that makes sense. Yeah,
it does make sense from that point of view. Absolutely. So the other thing that I'm interested in finding out on a like casual level, because I play Hearthstone Battlegrounds quite often, pretty much every day when I've got like 20 on my lunch essentially. I'm just dabbling with Hearthstone Battlegrounds. I'm just interested to see what comes out. I do like Blizzard games. I think they're well made. I think they're well thought out, and I think there's a lot of fun to be had with them. So I'm kind of interested in what happens at BlizzCon. Hopefully they don't find another way of screwing over or upsetting the fans.
No, I hope they do. That'll be more fun. I don't really care about Blizzard that much, so I just want
the news.
I just want to watch the sparks
fly. You want something to do in your daily triple, don't you?
Exactly. Just rinse them about it.
Daily triple bait. So there you go. Let us know in the comments if any of you viewers are interested in any of the games, what you're interested in that's coming up in BlizzCon. And also E3 is happening online this year. You talked about that in the triple. I'm sure you did this week too.
Yeah.
So a new era of online events now happening because of the situation with
that's
with the
if
COVID
E3 even is really a thing. Like I sort of touched on it in the video, and there was more of a talking point of does anyone care? Because I've always said I like E3 because it's a good moment for like loads of stuff at one time, loads of trailers, loads of news, and all the good stuff, and everyone comes together and we can talk about, oh, this was really cool, I like that, oh man, how bad was that EA show or whatever. But E3, as in the event called that, I think it's well on the way out. They've got these plans and they need to get some publishers involved to do the plans, because if they don't have any publishers sign up, then they don't have anything to show, and therefore there's literally nothing they can do. But the thing is, all of the big publishers, like the platform holders like Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, they usually do their own thing. EA often does their own thing. Was it EA Play? EA something? Yeah, I think it is EA Play, which is like the week before E3, so they can do all that. So the collaboration type event of E3 is kind of obsolete. So I feel like all these publishers, certainly the big enough ones, are going to just do their own thing, basically all at the same time, and it will be the same as E3, just without the E3 name, if that makes sense. Yeah. And hopefully it means, if that ever does happen, hopefully that means that it won't be as egregious with its like marketing and sponsored by blah blah shit everywhere. It's like, oh, we're going to talk about Gears 5, but we're not going to show you Gears 5. We're going to show you 3, what were they, like pro wrestlers under the stage surrounded by fire playing the game. Like, what is that?
And like have Need for Speed showcase, but first as I got brand new McLaren bring onto stage, so you can see it's like, come on, nobody cares about stupid bloody cars.
It's only there because they paid you so that you could run the show. But if you're not doing a physical show, you don't need to worry about that. You can just actually make your online show pretty good. And they have these like remote streamy things have been getting better over the past year. Some at the start were a little bit ropey, but they seem to have, kind of figured it out, found a bit more of a rhythm. So that's exciting, but E3 is going to die. Like the brand E3 is gone.
Yeah. Rip E3. That's what I got to say. And with that, let's move on to the questions put to us by the Discord members over on the Discord channel. And if you want to ask us questions on the podcast, head to patreon.com/prettygoodgaming. I've realised what I forgot to do this week, which was list all the new sign-ups since the last. So I do apologise. We'll skip this one, but next time I'll do it for both podcasts. So apologies if you did wait for your name to be read out in this section, which I normally do. I'll do that next time. So listen out for that. And so if you do want to become a supporter of the channel, then head over to patreon.com/prettygoodgaming. Sign up for as little as $1 a month. You get access to the Discord members or the patron area in the Discord. You get the access to the podcast 2 days early, and you get the satisfaction of knowing that you're supporting us, helping us bring this content and continue making this content in future. And you get to ask us questions on the podcast, which is what these are. So first up, Do you want to take the first one? I'm only saying that because it's big. It's from Day Off.
Wall of text, yeah. Okay, I'll handle this. All right, from Day Off. So, we all want that jump button. I mean, I certainly do. I talk about it all the fucking time. The existential question is, where do you put it? Most games of the complexity that choose not to have a jump button are tapped out of button real estate. Okay, this is a long list of functions here. You've got run, dodge roll, light attack, heavy attack, quick throw / shoot, cast magic, target enemy, quick menu, parry / block, attach to cover, switch cover, pull from cover, cover fire, iron sights, vault, post inept YouTube comment, Hadouken, contra code, pay respects, doubt, and that's all. And all that's just in the newest Ubisoft open world game.
Yeah.
For real, the level of complexity of actions so many games have now can only fit so much for 2 thumbs and 4 fingers to realistically and comfortably do. Maybe get the handle holding fingers involved, but my carpal tunnel is telling me that's a bad idea. What kinds of solutions are actually out there? Because if videos of people playing with VR and Wiimotes have taught us anything, the solution clearly doesn't involve using more of your body than your fingers and thumbs for command input. Okay. Yeah. Where does the jump button go is the question among that lengthy list.
And then it kind of worms after that. I think
jump buttons, they're going the way of the dodo because most games you don't need to jump, and I'm like, fine, but jumping's just better. Everyone knows you move faster when you jump. It's one of the old school rules. Yeah. Mario and Sonic, it was their method of transport and mobility, but also their method of attack. You jumped on people, they died. It was simple, and I think adding a jump adds a level of like verticality and dynamics to the environment you create, which means it's just better altogether. It's harder because it means you got to do a bit more work, but it's just better. And the obvious answer, not necessarily the right one, but the most obvious, qualifier for the jump button is like the X or A button, whatever the button is at the bottom of your thing, or on a keyboard it's always spacebar. Like, why would it ever be anything other than spacebar?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I think I think it was Dying Light, and they've got it up on one of the bumpers above the triggers so that you can still aim in a first-person shooter and do the free running and stuff, so you don't have to move your thumb off the camera stick, which was an interesting approach, and it did work, but it takes a hot minute to get used to. It's like, what? Why am I jumping with my index finger? That's not right.
No, it's not right at all, and I think a lot of games put me off. I think one of the ones that were more notable culprits for this was Zelda, the more recent Zelda one on the Switch. What is it even called? My God, there's even
Breath of the Wild. Or
Breath of the Wild, right? Yeah. You had to adapt the claw technique because the attack button was on the face. One of the face buttons was the attack, and it's like, what? Like, I can't like move with my thumbstick and then like press the button. That's not how you're supposed to control. All your attack buttons or action buttons should be on the bumper buttons, which is why I think they should have a third, if not a fourth, bumper button on these new controllers. Like, I've missed the trick there for sure. As a PC gamer, I'm using all my fingers mostly all the time, apart from my little finger on my right hand for the mouse or whatever. But I've got extra fingers here. Like, why not employ them? They're just going to waste. But instead, you have having my thumb like move this stick as well as press 4 buttons at the same time. That is obsolete in my eyes. Like that's not the way of doing it. And let me use my other fingers. So Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo, by that matter too, need to invent a new controller where all your fingers are used. And I think if you're like turning and aiming with the sticks, you need to be using your fingers to shoot or to jump or to run or to do all the actions you need to be doing. You cannot use your thumb as you're aiming to do any of the attacks or other movements. It's ridiculous. And for game developers to do that, I think they're just oblivious to fun. Like they like punishing people and making them work harder instead of actually engaging the fun. Like they're not doing it right. See, bad game developers. Bad.
I'm so glad you worded it that way. You need to engage the fun and you're punishing people because we on this channel, we're not particular fans of the Dark Souls games, who are known for being really, really punishing, and we don't find that particularly fun. But the one of the major things they have done is mainstreamify having the attack buttons on the top, so you can still aim with your thumb. So they didn't punish players' hands, but they punish their minds by making
And the
everything
souls.
so fucking mindless. One of my mates messaged me the other day. It was a screenshot of like an Amazon store page for Sekiro, and it's like, oh, have you played this? Should I buy it? And I was like, do not fucking buy it. You will hate it. Like, loads of people love it, but you, it's not your kind of game. Play something easy like fucking Ghost of Tsushima. That's a game that's much more your speed. You'll have more fun with it.
Yeah, that's for sure. So yeah, that was all my thinkings on that situation. I hope I suitably answered your question.
We just
there,
need
Dale.
extra buttons on a controller. That'll give us
Absolutely.
more real estate, as you put it, for complexity.
Yes, and thanks for the question, Dayoff. Moving on to Mhavik 1994, HVG, as others like to call him. When I say others, I think you call him that. He asks, it has been officially leaked by officials in official positions that one of the major figures in gaming, the leak didn't say whether they were a developer or an executive, is an alien. Who do you think it is? What makes you think so? And where do you think they came from?
It's Andrew Wilson.
Oh, you took my answer, man. Of course it's Andrew Wilson. Robbie Rotten himself.
He's not just an alien, though. He's like an alien android that aliens have built. It's their approximation of a human being that they think that's kind of a human. They cobble him together, and they've sent him down to just. It's a long game, but he's going to take over the world.
Yeah, that is the correct answer, and I think we've all figured this one out a long time ago. That Andrew Wilson is the interloper, and he's the one who is fucking the shit up. Essentially, I think the tip off is that he's so much like Robbie Rotten that he's from planet Lazytown or wherever Robbie Rotten comes from in that world. So, yeah. Thanks for the. I mean,
that's it. It's an easy answer.
It's an easy answer. Sorry, there's no longer one. Let's move on.
Okay, now I get to do another long one. Okay, great. This one.
I didn't figure this out beforehand. It was just a random accident, obviously. Honestly.
This one is from Cloney99. Games as art, a discussion topic and a question. Okay, buckle up. I don't believe game developers should make big game projects as their main source of income. Okay.
Agreed.
Now hear me out. Games are art pieces. Much love flows into the crafting of games. To experience a game as a gamer is both recreation and stimulation of your brain in an artsy way. Be it the mindless slashing of Doom that leads you to appreciate the craftsmanship in both sound design and level design, or just acknowledging the wonderful beauty of big sites in games like Horizon Zero Dawn or any of the big graphically intensive MMORPGs. These games require a lot of time and effort put in, and that costs a lot of money. And once it's out the door, once it's truly finished (brackets not like Cyberpunk half-baked, and not Ubisoft who cut out half the game off and feed it to you in pieces at a later date), your income flow runs dry. It's a hard way to do business. You try to create something in a set period of time, a pandemic hits, or new technology gets developed, and you shit the bed managing-wise. Suddenly, you have to push out a product that your heart is not in because monetization already ruins the experience. Instead, I believe it would be easier for the industry if all game development studios had a second branch of continuous income, be that a microtransaction-ridden mobile game or a business where they create 3D sims for the military, (brackets graphical designers should be capable of doing that, right?), or create ads for other companies, whatever. But that should be the keep your lights on source of income, and the games should be the get-rich-quick things. Yeah, games should be the get-rich-quick things that you release and bathe in money for a while, and then budget around your concurrent cash flow again. Am I making any sense at all? Do you guys, as YouTubers with strongly varying income streams, feel that would be possible? Or is it impossible to do business like that? Just a quick shower thought, so feel free to rip it to shreds.
I think absolutely. The notion of having all your eggs in one basket, throwing all your production budget into one game that comes out in like 3 years' time, and then and then gambling on whether it's a hit or a miss, gambling with the future of the company, with your employees' salaries or whatever. it's a very risky way to do business, which is why a lot of people have switched to the microtransaction model in the games industry. And I think it does make sense not to rely on like a 3-year round the production period, because it's so hit and miss. So in order to get that sustainable income, which you need to be able to pay the bills on a monthly basis, this is why this monetization method has been adopted by the AAA games. And I think they try to kind of stabilize income with like the yearly releases. You're talking things like FIFA and the Ubisoft Assassin's Creed type of games, like these yearly iterations, which is just slightly improved. That was their first attempt at trying to stabilize a steady income. Like that was a yearly thing. But now these microtransactions, everyone's laughing. This is the why Ubisoft decided. This question was actually put to us before Ubisoft announced that they were going away from AAA gaming. But it all makes sense because they developed the monetization method in the past, and now they're changing the shell around which they're delivering that by going to like free to play games, so they can just take money off people monthly, so they can pay the bills every month, and they know that they're not going to get hit in 3 years down the line where a game releases. Like Cyberpunk's the big example of, although that did sell pretty well, and imagine it hadn't sold that well because of the backlash, then CD Projekt Red would have been in a huge hole, even if they are a little bit with the shares anyway. But it makes a lot of sense. It's business. Business is business. They are running businesses. They're still paying bills, and as much as we dislike them, that's why microtransactions exist, and that's why games are the way they are these days.
I think it's so tricky because the bigger companies like your EAs, Ubisofts and whatnot, they can very easily to afford to have multiple games on the go at once. So, like, I think a good example of the microtransaction cash cow versus the more artistic, serious experience would be a studio like Respawn, because you've got your free-to-play game with Apex Legends, which I mean I don't know how active its users are, but it still seems to be reasonably popular. They're still bringing in new characters, and I think they're getting a little bit of artistic expression in there because everything's quite visually compelling. But it's a free-to-play game full of microtransactions that there's always someone complaining about, and people ask, oh, why don't you talk about that? Because I'm like, I could not give less of a shit about Apex Legends' free-to-play microtransaction. It just doesn't bother me. But then you've got Jedi Fallen Order and the sequel, which is supposed to be coming out. It's still not exactly confirmed. But you've got the microtransaction one and then the microtransaction free one, and they banked on that with Jedi Fallen Order. They explicitly said several times, there's going to be no monetization, there's going to be no DLC or anything, because they knew that's what people wanted to hear, and because it's EA, we barely believe them, but they've stayed true to their word. They've done no additional monetization at all. You bought the game when it came out, 2 years ago, 2018, one of them, and it's the same game, just better, because with updates and stuff. They've not rinsed it, whereas a game like Apex, they're constantly updating it with new microtransaction ways to do it, and I think that seems to work. However, it's the little companies that I don't think it could work for, because you've got to have enough money in the first place to be able to do two dual projects, with one being the cash cow, one being your interesting, creative, artistic one, which presumably probably won't make as much money, because the more weird and artistic it gets, the more there's a bigger barrier to entry, and people don't quite connect with it as well because it's so specific. But I don't know if that's possible for most developers. In an ideal world, absolutely. Punch out your stupid Candy Crush spin-off thing on mobile, which is just cancerous. Put all your time savers in it. We'll all hate it. But if it's in service of something better, then I think maybe it could be justified. But I don't believe that happens anywhere near enough. Most of the time it's, we're going to do these cash cows, and that's it. We're just going to do these horrific microtransaction ones. Like EA, the only one that doesn't fit that mold at the moment is Jedi Fallen Order and what's the spaceship one? Squadrons. Squadrons is meant to be quite light on monetization. I think there's some cosmetic stuff, but I'm not entirely sure. But they're like okay. But yeah, I think it's almost impossible for a smaller studio to do that. And ironically, it's the smaller studios which are the most artistic and most creative. Whereas the bigger ones, they're like, our version of creativity is doing a third-person game where we bring the camera in real close over their shoulder and it rocks when they run. That's immersion and
Yeah.
creativity right there.
I almost think that I'm surprised that more gaming developers or big studios don't diversify into the realm of like TV shows and movies, because they've got everything they need. They've got the writers, they've got the artists, they've got they've got everything they need to at their disposal in order to create like a TV show or an animated TV show or just work on movies, work on special effects and things like
Fully
that.
diversify the brand.
Yeah, I think that diversifying, it's really important that you don't lose sight of, you cater for all different types of, because some people like mobile games. I mean, we chastise them and we laugh at them. Lol, you like a mobile game, whatever, Candy Crush, Fiend. But a lot of people do consume those types of games, and a lot of people like free-to-play games, a lot of horrible monetization. Some people like yearly iterations with horrible monetization, but don't neglect the people who do like their single-player narrative-based games that have no additional monetization whatsoever. I think that's the sticking point with a lot of these big companies, that they're just doing too much of chasing money rather than just doing it for the sake of the art. And if they kept everybody happy, as well as diversified into other areas as well, maybe think about doing a Bandersnatch type of game, you know what I mean? Or something that's a little bit groundbreaking. For example, I think the creators of Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice are making something quite unique at the moment, aren't they?
Ninja Theory were going to be one of my examples, because they did Hellblade, which really put them on the map. They've done a few things here and there, which with reasonable success. But Hellblade's the one that like took them up a level, and now they're with Microsoft. So I guarantee that wouldn't have happened without Hellblade. But then they did last year. It launched and it kind of flopped. What the fuck was it called? Bleeding Edge. It was the multiplayer thing, character based, where everyone looks kind of unique, very Overwatch-like, and that didn't really do anything. But clearly, that's their quick buck game, while they can work on Hellblade 2 and this weird other project, which is called Project Mara, which isn't even really a game. It's like an experience. Yeah. But it sounds cool. But they got away with it. But they've got that little bit extra something from doing Bleeding Edge. Even it didn't last long, and they don't seem that bothered by the fact it didn't last long. Like, I've not heard anyone crying about it. So that seems to have paid off for them. Yeah,
it's definitely an area of concern for these games companies. Is like how they're diversifying their income streams, because the old model of throwing loads of money, because the AAA games these days are just so expensive, not like they used to be, because of development cost of like putting all these resources in to make things like high fidelity and all these different platforms that they've got to cater for these days, as opposed to the olden days, like in the 80s, 90s, it was just like, right, we'll make one game, take us 3 months and then spit it out. It's not like that anymore. You need to make a decent game like Sony make, for example, the single player God of War or The Last of Us 2 or those types of like huge games. You've got to commit on a long-term basis, and it's not financially stable for a lot of companies to do that. So that's just the nature of the business at the moment. But very interesting talking points there. Very interesting conversation, that's for sure. Thanks for the question, Mr. Cloney. And let's move on to the next one, which is Tons. And he says, I am not missing anyone, am I? No. He says, so let's ease back into these questions for this pod. We are at the start of a new console and new graphics card generation. Let's give ourselves a new game that will probably never come. So guys, what do you want to see made in a new game? It could be a new IP or a new entree in a series with a fresh take. So like a Daredevil IP or a Total War Asterix and Obelix. I want to see the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle story. The Last Ronin to be adapted to a game. Brief summary, The Last Ronin is set in a future where all but one turtle brother died at the hands of Shredder and the Foot. And this dude is pissed. He uses all the weapons of the turtles and is on a rampage to end the Shredder. I can hardly see this working I can really see this working in a Shadow of Mordor or Arkham style open world. Great question. Got any gaming requests?
I mean, we talk about this sort of thing quite a lot. My normal go-to one is just, there's something Star Wars-y, big open universe-y Star Wars, sci-fi, spaceships and shit. So I'm going to try and lean away from that. I think what I really want is something that looks a bit like The Division, like a fucked up city. Hopefully, in like, snowy, I think makes it more interesting because very few things do anything with snow. So, snowed out city, but like some. I'm not that bored of zombies yet. I'm going to be honest. Like everyone hates zombies. I'm like, nah. I love zombies. Are great. They're a free enemy. You can do anything to them and not feel guilty. But just something like that, but massively sandboxy. Like barely give me any story. I love story games, but just leave it out. Don't care. Maybe the bloke doesn't even need to have a voice. And I hate silent protagonists. This is how much I just want this open sandbox zombie thing where I just want to make the mission, like, or the goal rather, to like get from one end of the city to the other. And I want loads of like emergent moments and interacting with real people as well as zombies and being able to manipulate the situation. And this is where I think snow can be really interesting because you could have like walls that are frozen or doors that are frozen solid and you can trigger an explosion or something to open up. Stuff like that where you can be really, really creative in how you figure out how to get through. I think that's why Breath of the Wild was so popular, and I've been kind of meaning to go back to it. Weapon degradation and stuff was a real fucking pain in the ass. But the best thing about Breath of the Wild is it didn't tell you anything. It's just like, here's the world, go, figure it out. Like, one of the first tasks is you've got to cross this gap, and it's like, well, I don't have a ladder, I don't have a grappling hook or anything. So you chop down a tree and you walk along the tree. That's all these systems working together to make an emergent sandboxy experience. And so many games have sort of forgotten about that recently, I find anyway, of like the big ones. It's all cinematic, movie-like experiences. Like, yeah, they're cool, but I want to be able to be more in control and influencing the world around me. Not just in a storytelling way, but in a gameplay way. And I think that's something that's fallen apart a little bit. And that's not me begrudging any of these developers, because it's fucking hard. It's really hard to design a game based on systems like that.
Yeah,
I think it's why I really enjoyed Doom last year, because it's so system heavy and everything informs it's something else. It's a really entwined spiderweb of mechanics, which worked, in my opinion, absolutely perfectly.
Good answer. I've got 3 requests. Right, I want a space RPG sim, maybe, I don't know, just a space RPG adventure game set in the Expanse universe. The Amazon's TV show, or the series of books from the Expanse. I love that setup. I love the Earth versus Mars versus the Belt. All in the same solar system, and just that setting is one of the best in sci-fi at the moment, I think. The other one could be like a reboot of Doom, another sci-fi. Not Doom, sorry, Dune. Get this right. So I played this like years and years ago on the Mega Drive, I think it was. But it was like a Red Alert type of game back then. It was before. I'm not even sure it was before Red Alert. But I would like to see another game in that universe. I think they're rebooting the movie this year, or is it next year? I don't know. So another game in that Dune universe would be good. Another sci-fi thing. But another one that I would like. So that's 2 answers. My third answer would be a Game of Thrones themed one, and maybe not like the main Game of Thrones type of game, because there's just so many things there, just so many people, so many factions. I think maybe look at more a narrative-driven game, narrative-driven RPG game, set on the other books. I think they're making a TV show on them too. It's the Tales of Dunk and Egg, which are the spin-off that George R.R. Martin wrote. I think it's A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is the name of the book. But so you take on the role of Dunk, and it's a perfect format for a game, because you've got Dunk like the knight, and you've got little Egg, who's a little squire, who's like a young lad who's like who's going on adventures with. So that format works really well. We talked about it earlier with like Logan, the TV show, where there's an older guy and a younger kid, and also The Last of Us as well. It's got that same dynamic between the characters. I think that would work really well too. Just anything in the Game of Thrones, anything RPG, anything sandboxy, anything in those three recommendations.
I just want to be dropped into an environment that I can influence with my choices, but not be told anything. Like, I want to figure it out. Then give me maybe a little bit of story after a while. But like, my first half an hour or hour should just be, you're in the place, figure it out. It's probably gonna suck. It's probably gonna be hard. Like even managing resources and like how cold it is. I think I just want more games in the snow, to be honest.
Yeah. Survival sims, man. Give me a survival sim. Anyone knows any good
solid
survival
fucking
sims?
combat.
Yeah. Let me know, because I'm on lookout for a survival sim game at the moment. So let me know what you've been playing. Thanks for the question, Tons. Any of your own questions, leave them down. Sorry, any of your own answers, leave them down in the comments. And let's move on.
One final question. I believe this is the last one. Let me just quickly check in case any have been added since. No, that is the last one. Lovely. It's from Metal Shark. When a single-player PC game has DLC, which is already downloaded and installed as part of the base game but requires payment to unlock, what are your feelings on using mods, etc. to unlock it without paying, assuming you've already paid for the base game? So this is on the disc, or rather, not on the disc, kind of on the disc, on the system DLC that's already there, but you can't access it until you pay for the the microtransaction or whatever. But you have paid for the game.
This is an absolute shocking tactic that these game developers use. Is that it's literally telling you that you've paid for less of a product than they could have shipped you. They've sliced off a bit of the game, and they're going to charge you extra for that extra bit of the game. Now, I would never condone stealing, which is kind of what this is. So
There's
being
a
in a
fat butt coming though.
Yeah, I mean, being in a position of being on YouTube, people watch us, and maybe we're influencers, so we influence people, apparently. I would never say it's all right to do that, and I probably would never do it myself. However, I can understand why people would hack in and just take that content, because it's a shady tactic, and it should never be done because it's just bad. It's bad. It's bad for PR. It's bad for the gamer, and all you're doing is shafting people. Make a full game first, and then I think the only way I'd want it to do it anyway would be a game that I really liked and I really wanted to support. So I'd probably, if I wasn't an influencer and I was of a mind to try out a portion of the game which was shipped with the base game before I paid it, I'd try it out, and if I liked it, I'd pay for it. I'd pay for it afterwards just to support the developer. That's probably the only way that would happen in this hypothetical world where I'm not an influencer and promoting this type of behavior on YouTube.
I think the fact that it's single player as well is a key clincher, but I mean, I've still not really dabbled much with mods. I've done like a handful of things, but nothing too crazy. But I feel like most of the games I play aren't going to be from the kinds of companies who do that, if that makes sense. Like, it's going to be your typical EAs and your Activisions and probably your Ubisofts as well. So I don't know if I'm really going to ever be in a situation like that. But even then, to give myself like no credit, I probably wouldn't know unless I like looked it up. Unless it's front page on my news feed or whatever. Oh, this game blah blah has DLC already on the file. I probably wouldn't necessarily know unless I got told that, because I'm not familiar with rooting around files and seeing what's what, and I probably wouldn't feel comfortable messing with a game on such a fundamental level like that. It's probably quite easy, but like I said, I'm not very familiar with mods to certainly to that extent. But with you, I can totally understand why someone would do that, and I could totally get behind that and not chastise them for it. But at the same time, like I don't believe in game piracy or anything like that. I don't think it's right. But in a situation like that, I'm like, you're fucking over your paying player.
Tit for tat, innit? You're fucking them over, they're fucking you over. What are you going to do about that?
And it's single player, so it doesn't hurt anybody else's experience. Yeah. It only hurts. Well, even hurts is even the wrong word here, but it affects the publisher. Maybe if they find out you'll lose access to the game, they'll revoke your license. But I guess that's the risk you're going to take.
Yeah.
But
I
don't really have an answer.
Yeah, it is what it is. We understand why it happens because it's a shitty tactic. But all the same, I probably would never do it. I'd just buy the DLC if I wanted it, because it was a good game and I wanted to support the developers. I wouldn't. if any game I wanted the DLC for, but didn't want to support the developers, then I'd be questioning why I'm playing the game in the first place. So with that said, thanks for everybody for your questions this week. If you want to leave a question for next week's podcast, leave them in the appropriate place on the Patreon part of the Discord, and you can get access to the Discord for non-patrons as well. I'll leave a link in the description of this video. So you can join the Discord now if you're not a patron, but you can only see a certain amount of channels. But if you do sign up for the support, you get to unlock all the other channels where everyone's having all the good conversations. You only get the cheap conversations, like the free conversations otherwise. So it's definitely in your interest to drop that microtransaction, $1 a month at the very least, to support the channel. It's not a microtransaction. I am joking. I'm just being flippant. It really does help us out. If you guys support us, if you like the content, head over to patreon.com/prettygoodgaming and make sure that we can afford to continue making it. So we appreciate that. Let's move on to the next segment in this podcast today, and this is the Triggered Fanboy Comment of the Week. All right, so this guy isn't that triggered, but we're struggling for one. But anyway, I'm just going to read it out. Bojan Djelar comments, why is this guy so ironic and cynical in every news on this video? Even the title. Big dislike.
Which one was that? Well, if it's in the title, then it's probably the one with a middle story about E3, because it was like, E3's going digital, but who cares? Or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, big dislike. I mean, such scathing words there. I mean, I don't. I've got no retort for that. Big dislike.
I mean, yeah.
That's fair. Even got 3 thumbs up. So I mean, this guy's got a following too. I
mean, I think someone commented back to that one, didn't they? Saying like, it's because he's English, and I was like, yeah, that's it.
That's right. The Eels Renegade comments, he's English, that's why. Ha ha. Laughing face.
Yeah, like, I mean, yeah, I'm wildly cynical and sarcastic about absolutely everything.
Well, I think the point is that we're not just like sheep who just follow along with the. I don't know. You see a lot of these gaming channels. A lot of them are the opposite, but a lot of gaming channels who are just there to promote the products and like, be super excited about everything. Like everything's perfect, everything's brilliant. It's not like that in the real world, right? We have our own feelings. Like we're not really news. We're just like guys on YouTube spouting shit. So if we feel a certain way, negatively towards something, which we generally do because there's a lot of shady things going on in the industry, that's what we're going to talk about because heart on our sleeves, that we talk about how we feel about games. You might like that, you might not, but we're not this facade of like roses and sunshine which a lot of people put on. Like that's not who we are here at Pretty Good Gaming, and people subscribe to us for our particular brand of bullshit, and if you don't, then by all means leave your big dislike. See if we care.
It's probably not as big as you think it is either. Let me speak for every potential partner.
Not really a triggered fanboy, just a mildly annoyed dude who watched one of our videos.
I've got one that's in a similar sort of tone of like kind of mildly annoyed. It's not fully triggered, and it's more or less fine until it gets to the last sentence, which I'm just like, what do words fucking mean anymore? I can't remember what video this is on because I screenshotted them, so I can't remember where they are. This must be the Cyberpunk hack one, the pwned one. So this is from Machine Neck. Let's say that. CDPR pisses off its customer base and gets cyberpunked. Everyone's made that joke. Someone even commented, "Oh, I haven't even seen the video yet, but I hope you said cyberpunked." I'm like, yeah, but everyone fucking says that. Prior to their fuckery, I'd have actually cared what happened to them. As to punished everyone, effin, not fucking. He sort of self-censored himself. Effin, please back away from the drama. Yes, they did deserve this. Now this is the bit where I'm like, where it qualifies for me. Stuff the new age SJW hand wringing. So apparently, according to this chap or lady, it's SJW hand-wringing to say a company who did a bad thing, well, a company whose management caused a bad thing, doesn't deserve to have all of their staff's information hacked and leaked to the public, because that means that's bad for the actual regular people who work hard and didn't actually do anything wrong. That's SJW. I mean, I don't get that. Can someone please inform me if the dictionary definition of SJW has changed? Because that's just being human, isn't it? Not like I don't. So, you are a artist on Cyberpunk. You made this little Coca-Cola can thing in the game, and it looks really good. You worked pretty hard on it. But because the game launched like shit, you deserve to have your personal information leaked and all that. So yeah, fuck you. I don't get it. But
yeah,
thankfully a couple of people commented, but he didn't get any likes. And then some of the comments back did get likes, which I thought were fun. Tin Can Gamer said, "Get a job."
I got 6 likes. I like
6 likes, which I thought was just clean to the point. And then this guy, Karajorma, which I think that this is 100% how I believe. You know what's hilarious? I hear so much whining about SJWs that it's become more annoying than the SJWs themselves. Maybe not more annoying, but they're easily the same level to me.
Yeah.
Like there's the most recent one, linking back to Pedro, Pascal, and Mandalorian. One of the characters in that, or it's rather one of the actors, has just been sacked. Apparently, I haven't looked into it. I don't know if it's actually true or just some clickbaity stuff. She got sacked for supposedly doing some pretty tweeting and sharing and liking some shit people didn't like or some shit. So loads of people are screaming at her, saying, "You're transphobic, you're this, you're that." And then all of the anti-SJW type people are screaming, "Stop screaming at them," while screaming like, I don't care. I just don't give a shit. It's not like, it's not anything that I don't know, man. I'm about to get annoyed talking about that sort of stuff. But yeah, I don't understand how not wanting people to have their personal information leaked because of a bad management decision is SJW.
Yeah, this guy is clearly a bigger triggered fanboy than the previous one. I hadn't spotted this one, but yeah, the fact that he's so angry, he's letting his anger cloud his judgment to the point where he's okay with everyone getting fucked over, like all the employees and stuff. He's okay with all that because CDBR deserve it, right? They got punked, man. They got punked. They got pwned, epically pwned. And it's justified. Because of what they did to us when they released this game, and like how dare they do that? That's the worst thing they could do. So everyone has to be like doxxed, and all their employees need to be doxxed now because they deserve it. That's just bullshit, man. He needs to calm down.
To quote my new best friend, Tin Can Gamer, get a job.
Get a job. Yeah, good comment. That well done, dude. And okay. Next comment onto more regular comments, less triggered now, and this is on the Ubisoft doing less AAA stuff or focusing on other non AAA games. Mike Held comments, "Well, guess I'm not buying another Ubisoft game then." I mean, of course you're going to buy another Ubisoft game. What kind of nonsense is that?
Were you already not? You're either already off that train, or you're still going to stay on it. Like, if they haven't put you off already, I don't know what else could really.
That comment's just so non-committal, so non-aggressive. It's like, well, guess I'm not buying. So nonchalant. It's like, well, guess I'm not buying another Ubisoft game then. So much so that there was a reply by Jacob S saying, because they're going free to play, this doesn't mean much. And then Mike comes back, the original poster says, "Yeah, I was joking." It's like, he's just like, "Oh, I'm not playing another Ubisoft game." But I am really.
He rolled over and showed his belly immediately, despite no aggression.
He was challenged.
I mean, all right, buddy, buy what you want to buy. You do you. Unless, of course, he's trying to make a joke about, I guess I won't be buying another Ubisoft game because they're all going to be free to play. Maybe that's the joke he was trying to reach for, but just didn't tell it correctly.
Maybe that's
Anyway, I've got a couple more here. Here's one from my Hitman review, which I thought was quite good. I think that turned out really well. Sometimes I'm like, this didn't quite land right, but I thought some of my memes were top tier. From Max Slender. 10 out of 10 for this review. Also, thank you for a video where I don't have to watch at 1.5 times speed. So many YouTubers talk so slowly, but not you, Henry. Thank you. And I bring this one up because I've been criticised before about talking too quickly. But yeah, I don't think I talk particularly quickly, but I talk as fast as I talk. That doesn't really mean anything. But yeah, I watch almost everything on 1.5 or double speed just to get through it. And it's when you see it just knocking over to that 10 minute 5 seconds, 10 minute 15 seconds. I'm like, oh, come on, mate, you could have just picked up the pace. Let's just get a move on here.
Yeah. On that same note, Manfred Lorenz, guys, I've been watching your stuff for years and I really like it. Glad to see more frequent uploads again. And then he does continue. However, I have a humble request. Your coverage of AAA gaming is great, but I would like to see it if you could also report about some indie games as well. What's big on Kickstarter right now? The new releases of good indie studios. Yacht Games, Cyber Shadow comes to mind. DLC for established indie games like Dead Cells or The Binding of Isaac, or games that finally leave early access. I think it would round out your reports covering more of the gaming landscape, having more positive news than just focusing on what's wrong with the industry. Good comment, and it's perfectly fine that you've got that request. Unfortunately, we do try and do indie games. I like to play indie games myself. I've played one recently. I'm not going to talk about it because it wasn't that good. But when it comes to indie games, the best place for them is on the podcast where we just chat about games that we've played. So doing like a daily triple segment about a DLC on an indie kind of game thing could work, I suppose, if Henry's particularly
I have to give a shit. I have a real hard time finding a shit to give about plenty of these stories.
You got a PC now. So you got to start dabbling in more indie games and give us more DLC releases for those indie games.
Yeah, I play indie games mainly on my Switch, but with the PC I can do it a bit more. But it's like I'm not gonna talk about it just because it's there and just like if I don't particularly care about it, you know. But I mean, if there's something interesting that does come along, I'll often talk about it. But like you said, it's best suited for the podcast and a DLC of an indie. Well, actually, kind of an indie game thing because I am interested in it. I brought up Black Myth Wukong in a video this week. May have been after that comment. I can't really remember because that's basically an indie game. But it looks like a fancy-pantsy AAA game. And all that was a trailer. I just thought it was cool. And I'd ranted about a couple of things earlier in the video. So I was like, well, here's something interesting that you might like the look of. It does happen sometimes. But
we do cover them, right? I covered Crying Sons, which is an indie game on one of the podcasts recently. I can't for the life of me remember the problem is they get lost. We don't put them on the thumbnails or on the titles, right? So it's usually the podcast. If you're looking for indie games coverage, go back in some of the podcasts and maybe look at the contents of the podcast in the description to see because they don't get clicks. There's no point putting them on the title. Maybe there is because they might have some fans, but there's always something. They're always down in the pecking order in terms of what's popular and going to get clicks for us. So, we've got to pay the bills at the end of the day. If enough people support us on Patreon, we didn't have to worry about paying the bills, then we could stick them on thumbnails and to hell with everybody, to hell with the algorithm. We could just be producing for the patrons. But unfortunately, the reality of it is that we can't do that. So we do often cover the indie games, and I can't for the life of me remember off the top of my head now, but it's just a case of sifting through and watching a lot. I don't think this guy must have watched all the content because it's definitely we do that. We definitely cover them somewhere, sometime. Do you have another comment?
Yeah, I've got one here which I thought was quite funny. It's from a couple of days ago, and it must have been about Warner Brothers patenting or patenting, because I don't know which way is the correct way to say it. Someone else commented about that, and I don't really give a shit. Patenting or patenting the Nemesis system from Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor, which isn't a great thing because it means no one else can use it, and it's a great idea, and Warner Brothers aren't even using it at the moment, so what's the point? Anyway, Jason Beneke, I'm going to say Beneke, the patent/patent office looked at Henry's haircut and said, you know what? We're going to give Warner Bros. Their patent. That'll teach you to assault us with that ridiculous haircut, sir. 1 winky face, and then 3 sort of like side smile, cheeky faces. What I love about that, it's funny. You can insult my appearance all you like. No, that's fair game. Go for it. Love it. Good fun. But that's on just a regular daily triple, where the intros and outros were recorded like a fucking year ago. Maybe not exactly a year, but it's easily like late February, March sort of time. And then what's funny on top of that is my hair is basically the same. It's not, so it's still relevant. Like the insult's like, oh, that's an old insult. But wait, no, I actually do pretty much still look like that. I do need to get my hair cut though. It's really long at the moment. But yeah, I thought that was funny, and it was playfully mean, which is always the best kind.
Yeah. I don't know whether to do a mean one or a nice one. Let's go with the mean one. Jacob S. I'm sorry, what? Byzantine? That's wrong, even for the UK pronunciation. Byzantine.
I saw that one, and then I googled it, and apparently, according to Google's like audio thing, it's Byzantine or something. Byzantine. But yeah, Byzantine. I mean, all right. Sorry, I guess.
Sorry, words don't work sometimes.
I don't really care. So I've got a pair here, which I thought are so funny because they're together, like in the comment thread. From aforementioned Rob Vesper, who said, "Stop talking about Cyberpunk if you don't want to talk about it." He said, "That is an irony." Oh, sorry, this is about the Cyberpunk hack again, CD Projekt hack. "That is an irony. Also, it isn't cool. It's criminal." One like. Then immediately below it, Paul McGee, "A cyber attack. The irony is unreal." Also one like. So I just think there's these pair. It's not funny. It's wrong. There are criminals. This is really bad. And another guy, dude, this is fucking hilarious. This is awesome. I just think they're the two genders right there. They're the two responses to a hack of this scale. Anyway, that is my final. Well, it's a double comment to finish up.
One to bookend it then. Rock1290 says, "I love how you cover news seldom delved into at this depth. Appreciate the good video, and we appreciate all your comments, everybody. Thanks for leaving them on our videos and increasing the engagement and helping us in general, being nice to us. We appreciate that, as well as we do kind of raise the Triggered Fanboy comment above all others, but for the people who do appreciate and show that appreciation in the comments, we appreciate you too. So with that said, let's move on to the final segment of this week, which is the bad dad joke of the week. You ready, Henry?
I'm not sure I am.
Yeah, brace yourself. "My wife asked me today if I'd seen the dog bowl. I said no. I didn't know he could."
All right.
But and that's all you're getting. I'm not reading anymore because there's only so many fake laughs you can get out of Henry in one given week, and that is enough. So that's it. Thanks for everybody for watching and supporting and commenting and everything else that you do, which helps us. So on behalf of Henry and myself, it leaves me nothing else to say but thanks for watching, and we will see you again in the next one. Until then, bye for now.